Hello folks. This session is an attempt to go through our time accounting and billing product and take you through setting up a file, entering some time, actually running a bill, entering a payment, and basically taking you through a billing cycle. It's important before you get started to actually set up the control file. In the control file you have the name of the firm for internal reports, the name and address of the firm to go on the bill head itself, and we can alter the fonts as you choose. We can also add a custom logo to the bill if you have one. Then you have up to 5 lines that you can have for a footer on the bills. You tell it whether or not you're integrated with the general ledger so that your cash received posts back into the ledger, the fiscal year that you're in, your defaults as far as the type of case you're taking, as far as the fee arrangement, the invoice format, and other defaults. And if you apply service charges or finance charges to past due balances, you can set up a service charge code for that. And you can customize your own payment description if you like. And we'll show you that in just a moment. Once you have that set up, you have to make sure that you set up each one of your timekeepers, whether that be attorneys, paralegals, or secretaries, anybody you're billing time for. And in this case, we see that the code is the timekeeper's initials. So you've got the code that the timekeeper is referred by, the name. If you're doing any leads, electronic billing, you have to put this timekeeper into a category specified by leads. You have a default hourly billing rate, and you can have an unlimited number of special rates by code. So we may be doing work for Aetna Insurance or Settle Fast, and if we code it as such, anytime we enter time for this timekeeper on a Settle Fast case, it'll bill out at $3.50 an hour as opposed to $1.50 for the default. Then if you're integrated to the ledger, you tell each timekeeper what cash account that the payment received is going to post back to, what income account, and what cost and expense recovery accounts they're going to post to. Once you have that set, you establish your activity codes. And these are simply fee and cost codes that you use when you're entering time and cost, like C for conference or CO for correspondence, or like on costs you might have FF for filing fees, just things that are easy to remember. Or these can be numbers if you prefer to have numbers. And you can enter as much narrative as you like that will automatically be inserted into the time slip. Tell it whether or not it's billable. And if it's an expense item, a soft cost, like postage or copies or long distance calls, you can specify a special GL account, general ledger account, to recover those costs back into. Then you set up your practice areas. And the practice areas only have to be the ones that you're actually representing clients in your firm, whether that be estate planning or elder law or personal injury, workers' comp, doesn't matter what it is, but every time you open a case, you have to assign it to a specific practice area. By doing so, CASELODE can track all of your billings and your receipts automatically by practice area. You also have the ability to establish time entry narrative codes. And these are simply codes attached to as much description as you like in order to help you get data into the system in a rapid manner without having to key repetitive information. Once all of your coding is in, you actually set up your clients. And we're going to be using client 1000 today, which is Settle Fast Auto. The client number can be letters or numbers or special characters, up to 10 characters long, anything of your choice. If you have an attention to, you specify it, and then the name and address of the firm, the timekeeper that this client is assigned to, any telephone numbers, cell numbers, email addresses associated with that client, and a few other defaults. You then specify or set up the cases for the client. And you can see the case number is 15 characters long. It could be letters, numbers, special characters. And in our case, client 1000, our Settle Fast Auto, has about 4 cases. And we're going to use this one. We've got the case prefixed with the client number, and then a .004 just indicating that this is the 4th matter for client 1000. However, the client number itself does not actually have to be a part of the case number. As long as the two are attached is all that matters. You set up a sort name, which is an alphabetic, quick way to find this case if you can't remember the number. You put in the name and address unless it defaults automatically from the client. You tell it what the fee arrangement is and what the practice area is, assign it to one of your timekeepers, and then specify a case reference so that the case reference will be the ray on the bill, and it'll also be a good way to look the case up if you can't remember anything else about it. You enter your phones, your email address, the date that the case opened, how it was referred, the adverse party, any special rates. A case can have a unique copy rate or fax rate. It doesn't have to be the standard. If the case is an electronic billing file, you need to check ABA code. If it's an insurance defense file, you can enter as much of this information as you like claim number, policyholder's name, claim rep name. Any of this information is available for any type of case, but it's specifically pertinent to insurance defense. You can maintain notes on the case, enter additional names that you wish to check for conflict avoidance, and then the system will maintain all of the balances on an ongoing basis for you, whether that be year-to-date or life or inception to date, work in process, accounts receivable. And if you need to send a copy of each bill to this case to a different party, you can enter that party's name and address in this tab. And every time an invoice is generated on this case, which is going to this address, a copy of that invoice will also go to this address. So that comes in handy if there's a requirement to do split billing or to assign an invoice to another case as well. Once all of your codes and your cases and clients are in the system, you come into time, cost, expense entry. You just tell it you want a new one. And we're going to enter some time on this case. Most of the entry will be billable time, although some of it will be cost, some of it will be expensive, some of it will be actually fee adjustments. But as far as just hourly billing, it'll be billable time. And then you enter the date that the transaction took place, the timekeeper that actually did it, an activity code such as D for deposition, and it may be 2 hours, deposition in Atlanta. And if you want another one, you simply tell it you want another one. In this case, it may be a different timekeeper, and it may be fax investigation regarding case. I've made a typo here, so all we've got to do is do an Alt-S, and it'll bring up our spell check feature. It will suggest what the word should have been, and you can pick from a list. Once you see the one you want, you just highlight it and tell it to replace it, and it tells you no more suspect words have been found. There's a feature also in the system regarding the narrative codes that we talked about. If you open a new case in this entry, you can do a shift and a pipe symbol, which is the character over the enter key. And in our case, we're going to do ONF, which stands for Open New File. And as soon as we space off of it, it will bring in any narrative that we've associated with ONF. This will help you get a lot of information into the system in a short order. Occasionally, we have firms that need to move entries around on a bill. The time slip counter allows you a vehicle for doing that, as long as you are moving entries up or down within the same date range for the same timekeeper. You are allowed to click on time slip counter and change this to an odd number that would move it up or down. You also have the ability to unselect an item for billing and to key an item and flag it as not being billable. So all of your time and your costs go into the system in this manner. We'll tell it we want one more new one, and we're going to do an 06 for a cost, which would normally come in from our accounts payable module. And we'll say it's filing fees on your case. So now we'll go out and take a look at where this case stands before we actually do any billing on it. If you'll notice, everything is sitting in work in process at this point. So we're in the work in process tab, and any item you click on, it shows you the narrative that goes with that item at the bottom. Everything is in sequence by billable time, and then cost, and then expenses. And if you needed to edit any one of these, you can just click on it and do as the note here says, press the F4 key, and it'll bring up an edit screen, and you can change anything about that entry or even delete it prior to it being billed. And once you come back to this screen, it will reflect your changes. So far we're about to bill out $1231.25 in fees, $100 in cost, and $1250 in expenses or soft cost. We'll go to bill transactions. We see that there's nothing been billed on this file. It's never actually been billed, and there's no payments on the file. So this file is ready to go through the billing process. And if we go to the bill printing screen and just put in this file number and cut it off on today's date, we're simply going to preview it. If you'll notice, we've got our bill heading, when the bill was printed, and the timekeeper's initials that this file is assigned to. This is strictly a user option. We have about 25 different billing formats, and you can pick and choose which format suits your firm the best. Most of our clients use several formats depending on who the case is, which seems to dictate what they actually have to reveal to the client. In this case, we're showing about as much as you can possibly show. The date, who did the work, the description of the services rendered, the hourly rate the person worked at, the increment of time or hours, and the extended amount. So the total services rendered is $1231. The Timekeeper Summary is an option, but it does summarize the time and the amount for each timekeeper. And then we have cost advances for the filing fees. And on the next page, we'll see that we have expenses advanced, which were copies at the courthouse. So unless changes are made in the pre-billing process, we're going to bill the client $1343.75. So we're going to go ahead and finalize that bill, which we have to do as a bill to file only, which just creates a text file, but we can't actually demonstrate printing the bill on the screen and finalizing it. The cutoff should be today, and now we'll go ahead and finalize it. Now if we go back to Activity Inquiry and pull up that same file, we'll notice that the work in process is gone, everything is zero there. and everything is moved over to bill transactions. So this $1343.75 has now actually been billed to the client on today's date under this invoice number. So we will rock along during the month, and hopefully, if we're lucky, we'll get a payment on that. And to demonstrate that to you, we'll go into payment entry and tell it we want a new payment, and we will key that file in or simply look for it, and then decide which invoice for that file we're going to pay. The client's check number is optional, but it's suggested if you have it available. The date that the payment is to be recorded as of, and then the amount of the payment. The system assumes once you select an invoice that the payment is actually a payment in full, but in many cases it's not. So you simply key over the top of that to indicate what the client's actually paying. It's going to go to our general ledger number 1010, which is our operating account. And in this case, it's bringing in our default payment description from the control file. And if we right-click on it, it'll automatically insert the word check number and then pull the check number from up here down into the payment description. You have the option of applying the payment by billing Timekeeper, which is going to automatically prorate the $1,300 to who actually earned it. You can apply it manually, which allows you to apply so much to fees, so much to cost, or you can apply it to the responsible Timekeeper, which would be this individual. In this case, we're going to do a billing Timekeeper distribution to show you that what's really happening is the first thing payment entry does is recovers the costs first, which was the filing fee. Then it recovers expenses, which were the copies. And then anything left over out of the $1,300, it starts applying it to each Timekeeper that worked on the file on a pro rata basis. And it will do this for every partial payment until each Timekeeper has fully recovered their investment in the case, or until you decide to write off a portion of it. So each one of your payments are entered in that manner, and then you go in and tell it to post the payments. Regardless of how many you may have keyed, you just select them and tell it to post them. At the time you post them, they're actually posted to both the time and billing system and into the general ledger system. So if we look down here, we see that we have a payment recorded on today's date, and now the client only owes us $43.75. After your billing and collections process, we recommend that you run various reports for management review and to see where you stand as far as your outstanding accounts receivable. Before we run an accounts receivable aging report, you need to calculate or compute your receivables as of the day you're running the report. And it goes through and actually ages it into over 30, over 60, over 90, and so forth. There are a number of different reports available when it comes to accounts receivable aging. You can get summary reports. You can get them by invoice number if you want to know which specific invoice is outstanding. We will just run one for 90 days. Tell it we did calculate our accounts receivable, and tell it we want to preview that report. So we've got the name of the firm, accounts receivable aging as of this time, all Timekeepers, and then it shows each file. It shows when the file opened, when it was last billed, when it was last paid, and we'll come down to our file that we just worked on. If you'll recall, we billed them $1343.75 and they paid $1,300 on this date. So all of their outstanding is current. It has not aged over 30 days at this point. However, we have a couple files out here that have fees, costs, both outstanding over 90 days, which needs some collection activity, obviously. And we'll go to our last page, and it shows the total for the firm. Outstanding, the firm has $12,348 in fees, so much in cost, and no expenses outstanding. So we recommend that this report be run each and every month and have the appropriate person to work on collections as you deem appropriate. Another productivity report that we recommend that you run each month is the post-billing Timekeeper Summary. And in our case, we'll run it for 0301 through 0305. Normally this would be a full month. You can tell it billing timekeeper only, or you can run it by responsible and billing. You can create an Excel pie chart, or you can actually create an Excel spreadsheet out of it. The purpose of this report is to show you both on a this period or this month basis, and in our case this period was March 1 through 5, but on year to date it's January the 1st through whatever cutoff you're running. The report is split into two sides, if you'll notice. This is year to date, this is current period. So you have the same headings on each side. So this timekeeper actually entered 5¼ hours. They were all billable. This was the value of the hours that were entered. This is the number of hours actually billed, because some of the work in this case was already in the system prior to this period. We billed out this much in fees. There were no adjustments or discounts, as opposed to year to date there were some. And then you have the cash received for this timekeeper and the net billings for this timekeeper. So in a very summarized report, you can compare each one of your timekeepers and where they stand both month to date and year to date. The system has quite a number of various reports, different ways to get your name and address listings, your productivity summaries, your invoice reviews. You just saw the accounts receivable aging, the post-billing summaries. You have a lot of different ways to run the cash receipts journals. We may want to run a recap of 0301 through 0305. And in this case, we will see a breakdown of each timekeeper that had receipts in this period and how much of it was applied to the apply to timekeeper and how much was applied to the responsible timekeeper. If you had a sole practitioner and all the cases were assigned to that practitioner, then the apply to and the responsible would be the same figures. But it's important to take a look at that on a periodic basis. And then you also have the ability to run a cash receipts journal by area of law. This month, we took in 38.87% of our fee income was on domestic and 61.12% was on personal injury. This type of report is also pretty valuable for your professional insurance liability applications. You have a client file balance report. You have fee revenue by case and by client. This shows you in a dollar sorted order where your money is actually being derived from. You have a statement of accounts and in advance reports. You have a number of different reports that are designed to compare the timekeepers within the firm and who's actually producing within your organization. This product is in use across the U.S. and in Canada. If we can help you in any way, please let us know. We'd like to take you through a more in-depth look at the capabilities of the product, but you can't do that within a YouTube video presentation. But just remember, if we can help, call Morningstar Technology, CASELODE, 864-346-4486. Thank you.